The worst kind of theft doesn't involve locks. It's when someone steals the life you built while calling it family. I came back on a Monday. Red-eye flight. 2 weeks away for work. Not a vacation, not a break. Just the kind of time you need to reset without realizing how much weight you've been carrying. All I wanted was to get home, take a shower, and fall into my own bed. Instead, my key didn't work. At first, I thought I had the wrong set. Maybe I grabbed the spare key from the back drawer. But then I noticed the lock was different. New. Shinier. Installed without my knowledge. I knocked. It took a full minute for the door to open. And there he was. My brother. Standing in the doorway of my apartment, in my robe, holding a cup of coffee like this was normal. Behind him, I could see his wife on the couch, their toddler watching cartoons with cereal crumbs all over the floor. My living room was rearranged. My framed art gone. My furniture covered with baby-proofing foam and cheap plastic toys. "What are you doing here?" I asked, not even sure my voice sounded real. He blinked, like I was the one who'd shown up unannounced. "Mom said you wouldn't mind," he said. "We needed a place. It's just temporary." I stepped inside slowly. My things were boxed up, labeled, stacked along the hallway like an eviction had taken place, except no strangers had done this. My family had. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood there, heart pounding, realizing something I hadn't wanted to believe for years. They don't see this as mine. They never did. Later that night, after they offered me the guest room in my own apartment like it was some sort of favor, I sat in the stairwell, called my mom, and asked why she didn't tell me. She sighed like I was being difficult. "They have a child," she said. "You're single. You have space. Why can't you just be generous?" Because no one asked. Because it wasn't a favor. Because it was a decision, made without me, about something that belonged to me. And for the first time in my life, I realized I was done being the one who always made room. When your voice has been ignored for years, using it feels like rebellion, even when you're just telling the truth. The next morning, I woke up on my own couch and felt like a stranger in a life I had built. The coffee table was sticky. My framed family photo had been replaced with a cartoon-themed toy bin. The kitchen smelled like instant oatmeal and scorched formula. I found my brother in the kitchen, texting. His wife was in my bedroom with the door closed. Their child was still asleep in the guest room, or what used to be my office. "We need to talk," I said. He didn't look up. "We're getting ready to head out. Can it wait?" "No, it can't." He sighed and leaned against the counter like I was exhausting. "I didn't agree to this," I said calmly. "You didn't ask. You changed the locks, moved my things, and didn't tell me. That's not temporary. That's a takeover." He rolled his eyes. "You're blowing this out of proportion. We didn't think you'd be so rigid. You're not even here most of the time." "That's not the point," I said. "It's my home. I have the deed. My name is on everything. You're trespassing." His expression hardened. "Mom said you wouldn't pull this." There it was again. Mom said, like her word carried more weight over what was legally, practically, and emotionally mine. "She's not the one who pays the mortgage," I replied. "Come on," he said, arms crossed. "You don't have kids. You don't know how hard it is. We needed a break. You have all this, and we're struggling." The guilt clawed at me like it always did. But something had shifted. I wasn't a child anymore. And this wasn't sharing. This was entitlement. "I'll give you 1 week," I said. "Then I'm changing the locks again. And next time, I will bring legal action." For the first time, I saw something flicker in his face. Not fear, but awareness. That the sister he thought would always fold just drew a line. The moment you stop asking for permission to take back what's yours is the moment they realize they've lost control. I called a lawyer that afternoon. Not because I wanted to escalate things, but because for once, I wanted to know what my rights actually were, not just the version my family handed me growing up. The consultation was simple. Clear. "Yes," she said, "if your name's on the deed and they weren't given written permission to reside there, it's unlawful occupancy. Especially if they change the locks. Even if it's family?" She gave a tight smile. "Family doesn't change the facts." That sentence stayed with me for days. That night, I ignored 6 missed calls from my mother and 2 from my brother. I texted them both. "I've spoken with legal counsel. Please arrange to move out within 7 days." No explanation. No apology. The next morning, I hired a locksmith. We walked into the building together. The place smelled like takeout and baby wipes. I said nothing. The locksmith worked quickly, and when I locked the new deadbolt behind him, something shifted in my chest. Power. It wasn't revenge. It was balance. My phone lit up immediately. My brother. Seriously? Are you this heartless? My mother. You're tearing this family apart. But I'd heard it all before, different versions, same guilt. Since I was little, I was the one who understood. The one who didn't need much. The one who made room. Room for my brother when he needed more time. Room for my parents' feelings when mine were inconvenient. Room for peace when I was the only one compromising. But not this time. This time I wasn't giving space. I was taking it back. That night, I opened a notebook and began a list titled, What I've Given Up Without Realizing. And at the top of the page, I wrote, 1. My home. But not anymore. When guilt is their only language, silence becomes your greatest defense. They didn't leave quietly. The messages became relentless. Not just from my brother and his wife, but from my mother, long paragraphs laced with disappointment, shame, and carefully chosen phrases that sounded like concern but felt like chains. You've changed. This isn't who we raised. He's your brother. How can you throw him out with a child? But I wasn't throwing anyone out. I was reclaiming what was mine. Still, it cut deeper than I wanted to admit. I didn't respond. So they escalated. My brother showed up at my building the next evening, holding his son on his hip like a prop. He rang the buzzer and waited. I watched through the camera, hard hammering. He looked tired, angry, calculating. He pressed the call button again. I picked up. You don't have to do this, he said. We're family. You did this, I said, calm but firm. You changed the locks on me. That was Marcy's idea. We didn't think you'd care. You're always gone. You have everything and weak. You didn't ask, I interrupted. You assumed. That's not family. That's theft. He shifted the child to his other arm. I'm not fighting you, I added. I'm protecting myself. He didn't have a response. Just a long, bitter silence. Then he said it. You're going to die alone if you keep pushing people away. The words hit hard, but they didn't break me, because I realized something in that moment. They weren't afraid of losing me. They were afraid of losing control over me. I didn't buzz him in. I let the call time out. Then I sat down, poured myself a glass of water, and wrote in my notebook. 2. My peace. And next to it, I circled the word, returned. Some bridges don't burn. They crumble under the weight of what you finally refuse to carry. They left on a Thursday. No warning, no word. Just an empty space where their things had been. The guest room was cleared out. My sheets, the expensive ones, were gone. So were 3 of my plates, 2 of my towels, and, somehow, 1 of my favorite mugs. I didn't chase them. Didn't ask for anything back. I just walked from room to room in silence, reacquainting myself with a home that, for the first time in weeks, felt like mine again. But peace has an echo. And mine was filled with the voices of everyone who once claimed to love me, now silent, or worse, sharpening their anger from a distance. The calls didn't stop, but they changed tone. My brother texted. We're out. Congrats. You win. As if this had been a game. My mother sent voicemails full of wounded pride. I can't believe you'd do this to your own blood. Not once did anyone ask how I felt. Not once did they say, we're sorry. I was grieving something I couldn't quite name. Not the loss of my family. They were never really lost, just finally seen. But the loss of who I'd tried to be for them, the good daughter, the understanding sister, the fixer, the bridge. I sat in my clean, quiet apartment that night, surrounded by things that now felt like mine again, and I felt something I hadn't in years. Stillness. No more holding my breath. No more shrinking. It hurt, yes, but it hurt honestly, and I could live with that. I lit a candle, wrote 1 more line in my notebook. 3. Their version of me. And below it, no longer mine to carry. Sometimes the person who hurt you isn't in front of you. It's the version of you that kept hoping they wouldn't. The silence after they left didn't bring peace right away. It brought space. And in that space, memories returned, not loudly, but steadily, like old songs I'd once memorized and tried to forget. I remembered sitting at the kitchen table as a kid, giving up the last cookie because he's younger. Be kind. I remembered sharing my room when my brother needed one, just for a little while. I remembered watching my parents smile at him, nod at me, and expect more patience, more quiet, more sacrifice. And I remembered the only person who ever told me that was enough. My grandmother. She passed when I was 19, but I still had her letters, short, handwritten notes tucked between birthdays and holidays, always ending the same way. Don't let them take more than they give. The apartment I lived in, hers, left to me without question. I used to wonder why she hadn't split it evenly, why she'd insisted it go to me outright. Now I knew. She saw it too. Even then, I lit one of her old candles, still faintly lavender, the scent of safety, sat down by the window, and opened my journal, trying to name what still ached. I found myself writing. It was never about the apartment. It was about not being chosen. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I posted on Reddit, anonymously, a personal post about family, about boundaries, about being called selfish for finally choosing peace. The comments came quickly, dozens of strangers saying, "This was never your fault. I see you. You were right to protect your space." It didn't fix everything, but it reminded me of something I'd forgotten in all the noise. I wasn't alone, and I wasn't broken, just finally honest, with them and with myself. Peace isn't just having space, it's choosing not to let anyone shrink inside it again. The apartment is quiet now. Not the tense kind of quiet, not silence stuffed with unspoken resentment or footsteps you brace yourself to hear. Just calm. Sometimes I play music. Sometimes I don't. I light candles when I feel like it. I read in the middle of the floor. I eat dinner at the coffee table, or not at all. No one moves my things. No one questions my routine. It's not loneliness. It's mine. My mother still texts, sometimes. Short messages, colder than before. Formal. Controlled. Always ending with, "We're still your family." But I don't respond. Because family isn't about blood anymore. It's about choice. And I choose peace. I started redecorating, not just to erase what they left behind, but to imprint something new. Not their version of home. Mine. Bright prints. Soft chairs. A little too many books on the shelves. Every morning, I make coffee in my favorite mug, the one they didn't take. And every night, I lock the door behind me not out of fear, but confidence. Because now, no one walks through that door unless I want them to. The freedom feels earned. Paid for in pieces of the girl I used to be. The one who always said yes, who always gave in, who twisted herself to fit. She's gone. And I miss her sometimes. Not because I want to be her again, but because I wish someone had protected her sooner. Now I do. I protect myself. And when I look around this apartment, this life, I ask the question that's followed me quietly for years. Do I owe anything to people who only love the version of me that served them? I still don't have an answer, but I'm finally okay with that. Because today, I don't need to prove anything. Not even to them.